Hi, hi. My name is Megan Gonzalez. This is my presentation about inequality, race, gender, and the social classes. To start off, what is inequality? Inequality, or social inequality in particular, is defined as the unequal opportunities and rewards received by certain groups or people of different statuses. Social inequality is harmful to society as a whole as it can create weaker social bonds among different groups. Statistically, leads to health and social problems for those of inequality and promotes status competition. An example, social inequality lies in the economic inequality, which shows how individuals or groups with less income correlates to an increase in health problems and a reduction in quality education due to their unequal opportunities, which you can also see in our current society at the moment. One major aspect of inequality is racial and ethnic inequality. In the United States, a culture of inequality has existed from the era of colonies to contemporary society. Historically, institutional discrimination against people of color disallowed for an equal opportunity to education or higher education. Ethnic inequality is shown in wealth as mainly white Caucasian individuals benefit from inheritance. As the saying goes, the rich gets richer. Furthermore, blatant racism and prejudice exist in contemporary society, deterring certain racial and ethnic groups from succeeding in society. Inequality exists in many countries, including India, where there are clear discrepancies between the poverty level and certain ethnic groups due to history of the caste system. It is difficult for certain ethnic groups to rise from poverty due to a long lineage of working in minimal paid jobs. Oftentimes, when we think of the word inequality, the concept of gender and sex comes to mind. This is because the gender inequality is so prevalent in contemporary society. There seems to exist discriminations and rooted beliefs causing women to face educational barriers, employment inequality, job segregation, and a lack of political representation. Some say that women simply choose not to participate in certain professional fields impacted by men, like for example, like STEM. However, we find that not to be true. A history of discouragement and resentment to successful women along with certain physical barriers disallows for women to be equally presented in the working sphere. This inequality leads to the wage gap, which depicts that there is clear discrepancy between the wage of men and women. In certain countries, child marriage is legal and encouraged, which this allows for women to pursue careers or high education due to their need to be a wife and a mom first. Like gender inequality, sex and sexuality inequality is pretty straightforward to understand. It is the social disadvantages certain groups or individuals based on their sexual identity, perceived sexual orientation, or membership to a sexual category. Although there has been many positive changes to equal certain sexual orientations, such as the legalization of same-sex marriages in certain countries, there still remains a great barrier for those who identify as a part of the LGBTQ plus community. Like the Black Lives Matter movement, Pride Month and annual Pride parades exist to bring light to these certain disadvantaged groups. However, there still lacks a clear majority support for them. Counter movements such as the Straight Pride parade, along with legal restrictions to the same-sex relations in particular countries, still contributes to equality in modern society. Data from census depicts the income inequality among races from 1967 to 2019. Although there seems to be a clear rise amongst all races in terms of earnings, it is clear that the gap between each race remains relatively the same. Provided is a chart of women's earnings in 2019, and towards the right you can see within each field males earn more than women. There are no outliers to this pattern. Furthermore, certain occupations such as electricians holds a much smaller percentage of women than men. This may simply because women choose not to engage in occupations they deem as dangerous or because of some social implication that depicts women as more fragile than men and therefore unable to work in certain fields. In summary, inequality is terribly disadvantageous towards certain groups and causes a great rift between groups. As a society, we should encourage equality and combat inequality by breaking social norms and depictions amongst particular groups and bringing light to these problems. Although many countries are gradually becoming more and more accepting towards rights of certain oppressed groups, there still exists much discrimination and inequality in contemporary society. You can see this in the recent BLM movement, and the most recent one would be the Asian hate that's been going around. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.